I would trace it back to the fall of Hosni Mubarak in Egypt. The Saudis were apoplectic, really, that the Obama administration allowed Mubarak to go down, that they espoused the cause of the Muslim Brotherhood and Morsi, and they felt that if the Americans could do this to Mubarak, they could also do it to the Saudis. So I think that was the beginning of the decline of the relationship with the Obama administration. We then saw the red line in Syria that was not enforced. The Saudis and I think even the Israelis lost respect for this administration on a number of levels. The Iran issue then was the icing on the cake, and I think it has led to a real deterioration, which they have high hopes now can be restored with the Trump administration.
Well, Ambassador, that seems to set up a situation where both sides would really like some good press here, and for some good things to happen that could benefit both countries.
Right.
I get scared when the expectations are pretty high then. Is it possible to meet or even exceed the expectations for what's going to happen, or are we bound setting ourselves up for disappointment?
Well, I think we've got to keep our expectations in check. Every new president comes in with the Saudis with high expectations, and then in some cases they're disappointed. The George W. Bush administration, I think, came in with high expectations, but we didn't get very far with the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Likewise with Obama, they thought he would be a favorable figure. So the expectations are high. We'll see what can be delivered, but I do think there's a sense among the Saudis, I was just there last month, that this is a new opportunity, one that they can seize. And yes, you're right, it's also a great opportunity for the Saudis to show the world that they are now really part of the international family of nations, a major economy, and a major player.
Does this trip make it impossible to recover relations with Iran and perhaps other countries in the region?
Well, not necessarily, but it's certainly set up to create a defense mechanism to resist Iran's incursions in the region. I think what will make it impossible to reset things with Iran is more up to Iran than it is the Gulf Cooperation Council and the Gulf countries. They've got to stop insinuating themselves in every conflict, every corner of the Middle East, and I think this is an area that may well show some progress. I'm told that Iran's mischief has subsided somewhat since Trump's trip has been announced.
Ambassador, we hear that the president's going to make a speech more broadly on the topic and religion of Islam. Is that a potential pothole for him? What are you expecting from that? And is there a risk that he strikes a tone that disappoints all sorts of people in the region?
Well, I guess there's always a risk with this administration and this president. But I think it's important for him to clarify and perhaps set a new tone going forward with regard to how he views Islam. He's going to be speaking at the opening of a new Center for Combating Extremist Ideology. And so it's also a chance for the Saudis to show the world that they also are committed to combating the extremist forms of Islam that have in many ways hijacked the religion. So it's a win-win opportunity for both President Trump and the Saudis if they can pull this off.
There's none of our allies or enemies in the Middle East seem to be perfect. It's nuanced, and we hear, wow, you're great friends with the Saudis, and then you hear a list of things that the Saudis have done, whether it's human rights or some of the extreme forms of Islam or the 9/11 hijack, whatever it is. You hear all those things. Are the Saudis genuinely friends to the United States, and it's not just about oil exports and everything? I mean, is there a risk to cozying up to Saudi Arabia, do you think?
Well, we've had a long-time strategic relationship with Saudi Arabia going back to 1945. I think it's probably the longest standing strategic relationship with any developing country in the world. So yes, they're not perfect. And I certainly, during my time as ambassador, spent a lot of time trying to deal with them on human rights, women's rights, and other issues. But you have to, when you raise these issues, you have to make it clear to them that they have to act in a way that they believe is in their self-interest. They're not going to do it with our wagging our fingers at them or at the point of a gun. So you've got to it's almost like fly fishing. You've got to work your ally, work your relationships the best you can. They have by and large been steadfast allies. They have allowed, I think, a toxic brand of extremist ideology to propagate around the world, and this is something they now realize at the highest levels they've got to do something about. We have to help them, but we have to also, excuse me, we also have to remember that they have their own national interests, and any ally we deal with is, at the end of the day, going to work in their own national interests. We go into these crises, we go into these conflicts, not with the allies we'd like to have, but with the allies that we do have, and I think we have to make the most of them.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.